Hello again and welcome to another edition of Newsmaker of the Week. I'm Leon Worden, and we've got an election coming up on November 4th. Santa Clarita Valley voters will be deciding on, among other things, Measure SA, a $300 million bond measure benefiting the Hart School District. With us today, we've got two guests, Gloria Mercado-Fortine, the president of the Hart School Board and proponent of the bond measure, and Phil Ellis, former Hart board member and signer of the arguments against the bond measure. Now, full disclosure here, this was initially scheduled to be a debate, yes or no on the bond measure. But it's not turning out that way, because after I spoke with Phil Ellis and one of the other signers of the opposition statement, Joe Messina, today, and they have said that they are no longer formally opposed to the bond measure. Now, I haven't spoken to the other two signers of the argument, but Phil Ellis, let's start out right here. Why are you no longer opposed to this Hart bond measure?
Well, I have to go back to why we were opposed to it, one of which was the what we thought was insufficient oversight and insufficient input by stakeholders in the community. We addressed that with the board prior to the bond going on the ballot and asked them to hold off on that and take a look at our suggestions. They didn't really have time to do that. They've done that now. Several people have discussed various ways to handle these things, and I can't speak for anybody on the board. I'll let Gloria do that. But what we've heard now is that people seem to agree with what we suggested along that line anyway, and what we're looking at is something along what Measure K did and have involvement with the Oversight Committee early on, from the onset of the project all the way through to the end.
Measure K was a Newhall School District.
That's correct.
Bond measure.
And that's completed now.
So is it safe to believe then that you are satisfied that the district will provide the Oversight Committee for this new bond with sufficient powers and oversight ability?
I don't know that powers is the right word. I think it will provide them with adequate information, full disclosure, let them have a chance to comment at the onset of the projects and give their viewpoints, a up or down type of a thing, and let that be passed on to the board for the board's consideration, because the board will have the ultimate decision to which direction they want to go on different projects, but this will have a little bit more input.
Let's back up and go back to the beginning. Gloria, tell us what this bond measure is, what it'll do.
Well, we are very excited about this bond measure. It is needed, and it'll do a variety of things. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about our district. I think that you know that we have an outstanding school district. We have a little over 23,000 students in the Hart School District, and just recently, on the Academic Performance Index, which is the testing that's done by the state, we ranked #1. Our students ranked #1 in academic achievement of all high school districts in California that have, ADA of 10,000 and over. So we are very proud of our students and teachers and parents and all of our partnerships. And not only that, but the high school exit exam that all 10th graders take, we have just over 80% of our students pass that in the 10th grade. So our district is just doing some wonderful things.
Well, Gloria, how is it then that they're doing so well if, like in this ballot argument, it says that they're overcrowded and they've got broken down bathrooms and everything?
Well, let me tell you how we got here. Measure V, we were able to provide many needed facilities through Measure V. And we're talking about coupled with other funding, but we were able to bring forward and to build, help build schools, help build facilities, put in labs, science labs in classrooms, so we can now see the benefit that providing top quality facilities will do for our kids and for our teachers. So, and that is what, and we're not finished, and that is why we're going for Measure SA. And what Measure SA will do will, for one, help relieve overcrowded situations in both two of our high schools, really, Valencia and West Ranch. But that does have a domino effect with all of our other high schools. So we will build Castaic, a school in Castaic. We will build a high school in Castaic. We will also be able to complete the three remaining modernization projects at three of the oldest schools, Hart High School being the oldest school in the district. So we will be able to complete phase 2. We're right now in phase 1. Phase 2 of that, as we will be able to complete Placerita and Sierra Vista. On top of that, we'll be able to address a lot of the safety issues that we need to upgrade.
Now, one of the things that, and forgive me, I don't know if it was the opposition or the former opposition or some other people, but it has been suggested that there isn't a guarantee that the Castaic High School will be built. And Phil, I'd like you to address that.
Well, there is no guarantee that anything happens. It's just what the plans are and what the school district is planning on doing. And Joe and I sat down with Superintendent Jamie Castellanos and Board Member Paul Strickland and had a conversation with others, and they have gone through and told us what they can without breaching any confidentiality, because in dealing with land property transactions, a lot of things are confidential. So they told us as much as they could, and we are very comfortable with the fact that that they will go through. They're very serious about getting this done as soon as possible. There are 4, and this is public knowledge, this is in the paper, there are 4 landowners that they are discussing with. And in this economy, if the district has money, you have 4 willing sellers. They're probably very highly motivated. There should not be any difficulty to get a good deal from one of those sooner rather than later, and hopefully that one will turn out to be, after due diligence, that the property is in good shape, no seismic problems and so forth, which is an issue that we have with all properties when the school district buys those.
And I'm not going to ask you to go back to 94, 5, 6 when everybody first started talking about a Castaic High School, but do you have a site in mind, Gloria, for the Castaic High School and a timetable as to when it's going to happen?
Yes, we do. What the district did, I mean, once we knew that North Lake was just not going to be a reality, and the reason we went with North Lake was because of the potential developer fees that would generate. But once we knew that was not going to be a development at this point, we started, and we had already been looking at various sites. We have a growth committee that's composed of 2 board members. I'm one of them, and staff. And so we began to seriously look at all of the sites and eliminate some of the sites. And so we came down to 4 sites. And as much as we could do, really, and work with the state to take a look at those potential sites. So we have prioritized those sites. And again, there's a lot of due diligence yet to be done on these sites, but we have very good. We've had a very open discussion with all of those property owners. So while we have prioritized those sites that we will come out with that. We're still going to just, we still have to do a little bit of due diligence. Some of the property owners really want it to be very low key because, just because of other business dealings that they have. So we just want to make sure that we don't put them in a difficult situation.
It might be, and to some degree, kind of, I guess maybe a pointless question, but here we are in October of 2008. If this bond measure passes, when do you think we would start construction on a Castaic High School?
So we would disclose this site, making sure that the property owner is aware that we're going to begin actually serious negotiations with them. So it will we'll pass the bond. That'll be into the new year. But from there, actually from now, we can build a school 4 to 5 years out. And it could be, we could have a school earlier, and that is in the way we then begin to build that school. Because once we have that pad, we can start building. We don't have to wait until there's a complete build out of the school before we bring students in. In fact, I think that Phil will remember when we did open up Golden Valley, it wasn't all of the grades. And same thing with West Ranch. So we'll do the same thing, bring in 1 or 2 grade grades in so that we don't have to have complete build out. Obviously, we'll have the acreage to do all of that, and but at least we can start opening up the school.
Now, the Measure V was the last Hart bond measure. Measure V was 2001.
2001.
And that was a $158 million bond measure. Now we're in 2008, and this is a $300 million bond measure. How much is this going to cost us? I mean, we're still paying, right, for the Measure V bond on our property taxes.
Yes, and that goes, that's correct, we are.
How much?
That, the voters voted for $30 per 100,000 assessed value. And so that's what the voters.
And that's Measure V.
That's Measure V. This measure, Measure SA, adds $5 to that 30.
Okay, so if we're, okay.
We're not really paying 30 right now. We're paying approximately 25. That's rough numbers.
Okay.
$25 per $100,000.
So if we're
assessed
paying
value.
25 per 100,000 right now, $25 a year per $100,000 of assessed valuation. We're paying $25 today. We'll be paying $35 next year if
Well,
this
if
bond
you
measure
were,
passes.
yes, if you were, exactly.
Right.
That is correct, because we never assess the full $30.
Right. Now, are all property owners, you know, treated equally here? I mean, if you have does a childless elderly person living on a fixed income who owns his or her own home, are they assessed at the same rate as, like, say, somebody with 4 kids who are in the Hart District right now?
It's on the assessed
It's the
valuation
assessed
of the
value.
property.
So it doesn't matter who they
who's in
are.
the home.
Everybody.
Right. If there's 30 people in the house or one
Yeah.
person in the house, it's the assessed value of that property.
Right. One of the things that I remember about Measure V was that we were going to build all these new schools with that, you know, $158 million, which, you know, and I understand, maybe you can explain as part of your answer how the state match works. But we're going to be able, if the voters approved this $158 million bond measure back in 2001, that coupled with other monies from other sources, we're going to be able to open like 10 new schools and modernize all of the existing ones. How did that go?
How did it go?
Yeah.
We were able to do a lot with that $158 million. That we got a match, state match, because when you pass a local bond, and then the state will match. And then we were able at that time, because if you recall, during that time between 2002 to 2006, our economy was pretty good. And so we were able to also collect a lot of developer fees. So we were able to leverage that with the state match, the developer fees, and student grants. So we were able to really maximize the dollar. And this time around, the economy is not so great. And so we are going for the $300 million. But still, we were able, in V, we were able to really leverage that so that we really spent about close to $500 million in facilities. And so we were really able to do a lot.
Were there any schools that opened since 2001 in the passage of Measure V? Were there any new schools that opened that wouldn't have been able to open without Measure V funds?
I think that because of, again, of the economy and the developer fees and the grants and so forth, we could have opened up, we could have built schools. Could we have built them to the caliber, to the high standard that we have built, that we opened these new schools? No, because we would not have been able to totally finish the construction and add special facilities that we have on our new sites.
On that note, I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about what's different about this bond from the last bond.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is now hiring. The Sheriff's Department will be hosting a Women in Law Enforcement Career Day, October 25th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at College of the Canyons in Valencia. Come and see all the exciting and diverse opportunities that are available. Explore the Career Expo and take part in the available on-site testing that begins at 10:30. Now is your chance to see what one of the most respected law enforcement agencies in the world has to offer. For more information, call 1-800-8-DEPUTY or visit them on the website at lasd.org.
Hi, this is Louis Gossett Jr., and you're watching SCVTV, the Santa Clarita Valley Television, right here.
You know, one of the great things about the Rubber Ducky Regatta is that it is such a family program, and particularly for the kids. I think the kids have an opportunity to come to a charitable event, have a lot of fun, and learn the importance of doing charity work as they get older and continue to move forward. Thank goodness that we have the Sam Dixon Family Health Center here in the Santa Clarita Valley. They do such phenomenal work, and particularly helping those families that have difficulty in having appropriate health care insurance and things of this kind.
See you at the Rubber Ducky Regatta on Saturday, October 18th, and thank you to our sponsors.
Welcome back. We're talking about the Hart bond on the November 4 ballot with Phil Ellis and Gloria Mercado. And Phil, you know, you're a banking attorney.
Correct.
So you're kind of more or less a banker. Well, you know, you're an attorney, but okay, you're almost you're an attorney for banks. So you know something about banks. That's where I'm trying to get to. And by extension, I assume you kind of maybe are even more acutely aware than others about the current financial crisis that has been sweeping the country. Do you think that this is the time to ask voters of the Santa Clarita Valley to approve a $300 million bond measure?
Yes.
Why?
Two things. One is by the time we see this added to our bills, our tax bills, hopefully the economy will have shifted a little bit better. But more importantly, in a down economy, you can usually get property cheaply, more cheaply than other times. We won't have the upturn in the economy that held things back that Gloria mentioned earlier. Also, the builders are not doing anything right now. They are crying for work. So they will hopefully outbid or underbid each other to get the jobs because I want those. So I think this would be, to the extent that the district has the cash and the ability to go forward and the land's available and the developers are sitting waiting for jobs, this is a very opportune moment to do that.
And, you know, before the break, I mentioned that I wanted to discuss some things that are different this time from last time. And, you know, you're suggesting that we're going to be able to, that the Hart District will be able to build things very cost effectively. And cost effectiveness was not exactly what happened with Measure V, because we were kind of trying to build schools and modernize schools in the time of an uptick in the economy. So everything got really expensive really fast and costs spiraled out of control, and there was a lot of concern and angst about cost overruns with the Measure V bond money or the projects that the Measure V bond money went toward. And so, you know, one thing that would probably be expected, you know, from voters would be for them to ask, how do we know that the Hart District is really going to keep watch over the money this time and not let costs go out of control, not approve change orders all the time and all that? Mm-hmm. How are you assuring voters that the Hart District is going to do the job this time?
Well, let me go back a little. Like I said, we did $500 million worth of facilities. That is a lot of construction. Yes, we had some overruns, about $42 million in overruns. But let me explain that. We had overruns where we had cost escalation, as you're saying. Things were very expensive. Materials were very expensive. So cost escalation coupled with the scope of projects that became larger. Because we had contractors, we had a contractor on one of the sites that went belly up, that went bankrupt. And so we had to go back and rebid the whole project again. And so that was costly. And we had times where the scope of the project got larger because things kept being added after the board had set a budget. And so things were added. And so after all of this, after really looking at those cost overruns, the district, the board said, we'd like to see, we'd like to have an audit. Where is exactly what put us into this situation. And so we did have an audit. It was Colby Technologies who came in and did an audit. Now, we also did we did remove personnel, and so we made some changes there. But the audit then looked at our systems, our checks and balances that were really not very tight, so that decisions were being made, but it wasn't getting to the board after the board had set the budget. And we're talking about change orders, and we're talking about many things, that decisions were being made not at the board level. And so sometimes the two offices, whether it was the finance and the construction, were also not communicating. And so this is what this audit really showed us. And so we've now put mechanisms in place to make sure that the way decisions are made, that there's redundancy, so that not one person is making decisions. We look at if there's a change order, we look at it very closely. I mean, right now, there are very few change orders happening, because we know that they know, as you're building, you know that that's going to happen, because you don't know what you're going to run into. But right now, we haven't even seen a change order in a very long time. So we know that now that we've put these mechanisms in place, new procedures, systems, processes, that we now have, and we have brought on some very good people. We know that we're really tracking every dollar, and we are tracking it per project, and so we won't go into these cost overruns.
Voters are going to open up their sample ballot, and they're going to see Phil Ellis's name on something that says "Vote No on Measure SA." And as we explained at the beginning of the show, you are no longer opposed to Measure SA.
That's correct.
You support it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So they're going to, if they read this ballot argument that has your name on it, they're going to see a couple of things that I want to ask you in particular about.
Okay.
Gloria said there were $42 million in cost overruns. In your argument here, you say there were cost overruns of nearly $80 million. That's one thing. And the other thing is that you say that the Measure V language said that a Castaic High School would be built, and it wasn't, and now you're asking to build it with trust us with another bond and we'll build Castaic High School. So those two things, the cost overruns and what the amount is and what you say in here, and what do you say about Measure V was supposed to build Castaic High School?
Overruns, it depends on how you want to count them, if it's over budget and so forth. There's a lot of different ways to do that, and I think that the $42 million that Gloria mentioned is easy to arrive at, and it's a little bit more difficult, not impossible, to come up with the balance of the 80. It's there. But it depends on how you classify it. There's a lot of semantics in there. So I don't think that's a big issue. I mean, it's a past issue, and what Gloria was addressing is okay, we had those issues in the past. What are we doing on a going forward basis to make sure they don't happen? That's the question you really asked. How are the voters going to feel comfortable to going forward? And I think that with the type of oversight that the district is talking about doing, and not the bare bones Citizens Oversight Committee required by Prop 39, but an enhanced type of an oversight, will get us to that issue on that. Castaic was in the literature to be built in under Measure V funds. It wasn't, but it's not that it wasn't planned. There was in 2006, I guess it was. There was, as far as we know, everything was looked right. We were all set to have something open in another couple of years, and then the developer had problems. Nothing went right. And so it just didn't happen because of that. And now with 4 viable sites that are being looked at, and with cash to buy it outright, I think this is the time the district can deliver that promise.
Normally if this were a debate, I would give you each time to make a closing statement. So in lieu of that, what I want to do is I want to ask you in these last couple of minutes of this show to discuss anything that you think is really important for voters to know about Measure SA.
Go ahead.
One thing voters have to understand that the only way that school facilities get built or rehabbed is through a bond. The state does not give that. The general fund only covers the educational aspect of the school, not the facilities itself. So to grow, to rehab, we need to have state funds. Sometimes we'll have developer fees, we'll help augment that, and if there's any state bonds available, we can have matching funds. But until that happens, we won't. But $300 million, make sure I get all the zeros, $300 million should be ample to do the Castaic High School and the other projects that are listed in Measure SA. And anything else, if the economy booms up and we have some developer fees, that's just gravy. To the extent that the state has the bonds in the next 2 years, they can augment that, again, just gravy, and we can enhance it that much more. But voters have to understand that as much as people hate taxes, this is the only mechanism available under state law to build schools. We have to have a bond.
Gloria?
And it's important that it be this year because the need is now. We would have to stop all of our second phase of our modernization projects. It just come to a standstill. There would be no Castaic High School, not for a long, long time. We're in great position right now with all of those properties right now. Once the economy starts coming back, it's going to be a lot more expensive. They may not be interested in dealing with the school district. Also, we will be at the top of the list for state matching funds. I think that is important because if we pass this bond, we will pass this bond. When we pass this bond, we want to be ready. We want to be first on the list.
And it takes a 55% majority to pass this bond.
Yes.
Do you believe that there actually will be state matching money?
Yes, there is still money. There is money right now. But we know also that the state will probably float another bond in probably 2010. But right now for us it would be much less expensive to build a school right now.
Mm-hmm. Got to wrap it up. Thank you both. Phil Ellis, by my watch, I'm not wearing a watch, but if I were wearing a watch, you would be the newest supporter of Measure SA on the November 4 ballot.
And we're very happy.
Gloria Mercado, School Board President, thank you both for coming. And thank you for joining us. If you missed any portion of this program, you can see it again and again on SCVTV.com. Check back here, Channel 20, Sunday 8:30 a.m., Thursday 9 p.m. for another Newsmaker of the Week.
Get this. Oh, I must be careful there. Well, that's a nice picture.
Come on, Anna.
Okay.
Foreclosure doesn't affect just you. It affects your whole family, too. If you've fallen behind on your mortgage, we can help. Call 1-888-995-HOPE because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Did you know the first gold in California was discovered right here in the Santa Clarita Valley, long before Sutter's Mill? Did you know our valley was the birthplace of the California oil industry? Did you know that when Los Angeles joined the rest of the country by rail, the tracks came together in Santa Clarita? You might know we're a popular location for filming, but did you know we always have been? Learn all about Santa Clarita's fascinating history at scvhistory.com or visit the Saugus Train Station Museum in Old Town Newhall, weekends 1 to 4.